there was a young man who was nonverbal. He was in high school. He very rarely spoke with his peers. He very rarely spoke in the classroom. But they did a student showcase one year. And they asked the theater kids to do a monologue. And this young man was in that theater class, didn't speak. But he worked with someone and he did a monologue. He did a 15-minute monologue on stage in front of all his peers.
Wow.
I mean, what more can you ask for, right? The arts helped this young man be able to speak in front of an audience of all his peers. So you have a story like that, tell that story.
Word bio, that means life, you probably know that. Mechanics is the study of forces in motion. And so biomechanics is the study of the forces in motion associated with living beings. Most common living being that of the human being. And so that's what my lab focuses on, is biomechanics.
So we have upwards of 2 to 3 generations of people in leadership positions in the education system making decisions locally that may have never experienced the arts where they were. So they don't know what it can do for their school.
And funding for the arts is abysmally low in our state. So you heard some numbers from Andy yesterday, but just in comparison to that, the Alabama Reading Initiative gets about $100 million a year. So when you think of that versus what they're doing in arts education, it's very, very small. So looking at it, those challenges seem really insurmountable. So how do we convince the state that we need arts, that it's not just a luxury, right? A lot of times we see arts and arts education as a luxury. How do we let them see the value of it in community development, right? In workforce training, economic growth. How do we convince them that kids like this, who are in schools with no arts, are a priority?
And whenever I tell you that you need to reach out to people, whenever, and collaborate, one of the things that I had done whenever I got there was I thought, okay, if I can help anyway, then people are going to think more kindly about, they'll pay more attention to these kids. So we got involved in everything from homecoming to the SGAs, to anything that was, if there was something going on, we put up a show and we would be involved and we'd often go help. And so whenever Doyle took over, like I said, there were 17, by 92, this is 92's band. And he blew it up, let's face it. But what we did was every time we had an assembly, we'd let the band play. Now they might not have been able to play more than 1 or 2 songs. And the choir knew one, but that's okay. We picked the one that we wanted them to sing every time, and they were good. And we put them out front. And that's the truth. And it makes me sad to say Doyle has passed away. He was a great friend. But that was his band in 92. Now let me show you what happened. That's 96. What happened in Madison was the word got out. You're talking about the realtor thing? Word got out that we had arts in Madison. And so whenever they would bring in people they were hunting a place to live, the realtor would say, well, now, if you want your child in the arts, you need to go to Bob Jones. And they buy a home in Madison. And that's how Madison started to grow. And our enrollment started to grow. By 90, actually we'll back up in just a second, it doubled. By 94, we were 2.5 times what we were. It was 300 kids when I went. By 94.
We change lives, but you have to have somebody like Melissa. You have to have that mentor that is helping guide you, or Doyle Thornton, or your allies like Sam Rabocus, or Marsha Fowler. Find those allies, find those people, because a lot of people hear Bob Jones. Bob Jones is like one of the Over Mountain schools, right? We all know what y'all say. It wasn't always that way. And our community changed. We changed a whole community. The entire community changed when the arts came.
Okay.
You know, Andy and I were talking about economic impact. You pay 25 to 30% more money to be in Madison, Alabama because of the schools. The realtors love us. D. Fowler sold more houses, superintendent sold more houses in Madison than any realtor ever did.
The team that I worked on, we had about 1,000 people in-house all working together, not even counting the third-party vendors and the contractors, everyone else that we were working with literally around the globe to build this theme park on the other side of the world. And, you know, during that project, without collaboration, I would have been dead in the water. We all would have.
8th grade science teacher Carrie Glass and teaching artist Pat Nickel collaborated on an arts integration project that combined music and science.
I enjoy watching them do the hands-on, do the projects, learning the new things, and that just makes my day.
The students learned about sound waves and how sound is produced as they constructed and learned to play cigar box guitars.
And so Vocabi is a cab that travels the city looking for vocabulary words. So Woodlawn is we fully integrated into Woodlawn, the community and the businesses. And so every month, new words are hanging in various businesses. And so the children have a passport and they go to the businesses to find the words. And
yeah, I see I got y'all attention now. See, I got a grown picture. You know, I know y'all see me how I am today. I am the person they projected to be as of right now. You know, a gangster, a thug, all that.
And so before the winking of an eye, those boys will eat that poison cake and one by one.
We're sending 90% of our graduating students into the world where really they're not be able to read and write. They not actually be able to have a mathematic proficiency. And so we think about that. So
at how do we get a higher pitch or a lower pitch? What's the best way to evaluate it? T, capital T, has to do with the period. So if you know anything about wave form, that has to do with essentially the frequency, how long and frequency, of course, has to do with pitch. So it's all related. By the way, in the top left, F equals ma, that's Newton's second law of motion.
So since 2015, I came to the State Department in 2014. To schools and or community organizations alone, there's been $8,900,639 given to schools and or community organizations specifically to support arts education.
The story of this ride could be, this is where the professional make stuff up thing comes in. There probably will be an engineer or an architect to remind us all what's physically feasible. A creative director to keep everybody on track. And throughout this blue sky phase, we will be focused on getting an established concept. Where is this ride going? And so once we have that concept, we'll move on to the next phase of design, during which an artist will paint and render many different options for what this ride could look like when it's finished. And he or she could go through dozens or hundreds of designs before one is agreed upon.
this right here was prior to the pandemic. So right now I feel like there should be a little thing up here that says global pandemic, because that was clearly an adverse experience, not just for children, but for adults.
Central offices, those statistics that they showed up there, the glossy ones, the central office people are having to look at the real reality and drill down at the data. And they're getting not the best picture, although they think it is, right? And so those are hard conversations to have. They're very difficult. And because people are actually going back and saying, wow, this is really us. And
if you're a Title I school or a majority Title I eligible school district, then there's no matching requirement. If you are not, there is the matching requirement, but as Jacqueline was talking about, it's a combination of actual cash and in-kind donations. I don't know any arts, especially teacher, that does not stay after class to get their art show ready. And their heart will fly on wings forever.